What if God's greatest plans for you start in the shadows, where no one sees you but Him? Picture a lone prophet, hunted by a king, hiding by a trickling brook, fed by ravens, birds so unclean they wouldn't even feed their own young. This is the story of Elijah at the brook Cherith, a biblical mystery that unveils God's strange, beautiful ways of protecting and preparing His people. Found in 1 Kings 17, this tale isn't just about a prophet surviving. It is about a God who uses the impossible to shape a hero. Are you ready to uncover the secret of Cherith? Comment 777. If you're in, hit that like button to keep this truth alive and subscribe. This journey will stir your soul. A prophet's bold stand. Imagine a man standing alone before a king, his voice steady, his heart pounding. This is Elijah the Tishbite, a nobody from Gilead, facing Ahab, the most wicked king Israel had ever known. Ahab and his queen, Jezebel, had turned the nation's heart to Baal, a false god of fertility promising rain and abundance. But Elijah steps into the royal court with a message that shakes the throne. As the Lord God of Israel lives before whom I stand, there will be no dew or rain these years, except at my word. 1 Kings 17:1. No rain, no dew, a drought to cripple a kingdom. This wasn't just a weather forecast, it was a direct challenge to Baal, a slap to Ahab's pride, and a spark that set Elijah on a collision course with power. The moment those words left his lips, he became Israel's most wanted man. Ahab's fury burned hot, Jezebel's vengeance sharper than a blade. The people, soon to face hunger and thirst, would blame the prophet who dared speak God's judgment. Can you feel the weight of standing alone against a nation? Have you ever spoken truth when it cost you everything? Share in the comments. Your story might inspire someone to keep reading. Elijah's words unleashed a storm, but God had a plan, not to thrust him into battle, but to hide him. The Lord's voice came clear. Get out of here, go east and hide by the brook Cherith near the Jordan. 1 Kings 17:3. Hide. After such a bold stand, why not lead an uprising or face Ahab head-on? This is where the mystery begins, a divine strategy that defies human logic. Cherith wasn't to retreat, it was God's way of protecting and preparing His prophet for battles yet to come. The secret of Cherith, a divine hiding place. Picture a desolate ravine far from Ahab's palace, where a small brook called Cherith trickles through the rocks. The Hebrew word Cherith means cutting or separation, and that's exactly what God intended. Elijah wasn't running away. He was being set apart, hidden from Jezebel's spies and the people's cries. This wasn't cowardice, it was divine protection. God Himself became Elijah's shield, tucking him away in a place no one could find. What if God's hiding you right now is really His way of saving you? Think about it. Share your thoughts below, and let's dive into this sacred mystery. Cherith was more than a hideout, it was a spiritual classroom. Away from the crowds, the applause, and the accusations, Elijah stood alone with God. The world saw a drought, but in that ravine God was forging a prophet. Isolation, which looks like abandonment to us, was God's tool to cut away pride, fear, and self-reliance. Elijah needed to learn that his strength didn't come from himself, but from the God who called him. Have you ever felt alone, only to realize God was shaping you? Hit that like button if this resonates, and let's see what Cherith reveals next. The brook wasn't a grand river or a sparkling fountain, just a humble stream, barely enough to sustain life. Every sip Elijah took reminded him God provides, but not always in excess. It was enough for the day, no more, no less. This was trust in action, a daily lesson in depending on the Lord. Cherith wasn't about comfort, it was about sufficiency, teaching Elijah to lean on God's faithfulness step by step. Ravens of grace. God's unlikely messengers. Now comes the strangest part of the story, the detail that makes Cherith unforgettable. God didn't send angels or priests to feed Elijah. He sent ravens, unclean birds, scavengers that Leviticus 11:15 calls detestable. These creatures, known for stealing food and neglecting their own chicks, became God's delivery service. The ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the brook, 1 Kings 17:6. Twice a day, these black-winged outcasts swooped down, carrying food to a prophet in hiding. Can you imagine God using the last thing you'd expect to save you? Comment below. What's something unlikely God used in your life? This wasn't just provision, it was a miracle. Ravens don't share, they hoard. Yet God commanded them, and they obeyed, bringing Elijah sustenance while Israel starved. The drought was ravaging the land, families going hungry, rivers drying up. But in Cherith's quiet ravine, God's faithfulness showed up in the most improbable way. It's a powerful truth. God doesn't need human methods to provide. He can use what we call unworthy, unclean, impossible to show his power. What's stopping you from trusting God's unconventional ways? Share in the comments and let's keep this story unfolding. The ravens' daily visits were a lesson in dependence. Elijah couldn't store food or plan ahead. He had to wait morning and evening for God's provision. Each piece of bread, each scrap of meat was a reminder. God sees you. He sustains you. He's enough. For African American believers, this hits deep. Our ancestors knew what it was to survive on little, to trust God through scarcity, to see him provide when the world offered nothing. Like Elijah, they learned faith in the wilderness, and so can we, when the brook dries up. But then the unthinkable happens. After a while, the brook dried up because there was no rain in the land. 1 Kings 17:7. The very drought Elijah prophesied now touched his hiding place. The trickling water slowed, then stopped. No more ripples, no more sips. What do you do when the thing God gave you runs dry? Have you ever faced a moment where provision seemed to vanish? Share below. Your story might encourage someone to keep going. The drying brook wasn't a mistake. It was God's plan. Cherith wasn't the final stop. It was a season, a stage. The same God who sent the ravens orchestrated the drought, not to abandon Elijah, but to move him forward. Scarcity wasn't failure. It was transition. God's voice came again. Arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow there to provide for you. 1 Kings 17:8-9. From a brook to a foreign city, from ravens to a widow, God's plan kept unfolding. Can you trust God when one door closes, knowing he's opening another? Hit that like button if you're ready for what's next. Zarephath was no ordinary place. It was in Sidon, Jezebel's homeland, the heart of Baal worship. God wasn't just moving Elijah. He was sending him into enemy territory to show his power knows no borders. The widow, poor and desperate, would become God's next vessel of provision. Elijah, who learned to trust at Cherith, would now become a channel of miracles for her. The prophet, who was fed by ravens, would feed a family through faith. What if your hard season is preparing you to bless others? Comment 777 to join this journey, and let's see where it leads. Cherith's Lessons, a school for us all. The brook. Cherith isn't just a place in Elijah's story. It is a mirror for our lives. It's where God hides us to protect us, separates us to shape us, provides for us to teach us. Cherith means cutting, and that's what God does. Cutting away what doesn't belong, pride, fear, the need for control. In that quiet ravine, Elijah learned to trust God's voice over the world's noise. He learned that provision comes not from strength, but from surrender. Have you ever been in a Cherith season where God stripped everything away to show you himself? Share your story below. Let's inspire each other. For African American believers, Cherith feels familiar. Our history is full of hidden places, cotton fields, secret churches, moments of quiet faith when the world was loud with oppression. Like Elijah, our ancestors trusted God's provision, whether it was a meal shared in scarcity or strength to endure. Cherith reminds us that God sees us in our hidden moments, providing just enough for the day, preparing us for his purpose. The ravens teach us that God's ways don't always make sense. He uses the unlikely, the overlooked, the unclean to show his glory. In a world that values wealth and power, God chooses the humble, a brook, a bird, a widow, to sustain his people. What's the raven in your life, the unexpected way God's providing? Hit that like button if this truth speaks to you, and let's keep digging. From hidden to hero. Elijah's mission. Cherith was never the end. It was the beginning. From that lonely brook, Elijah emerged ready to face 450 prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, to call down fire from heaven, to challenge a nation's idolatry. The isolation, the ravens, the drying brook, they forged a prophet who trusted God's voice above all else. Zarephath was next, where Elijah's faith would spark miracles. A widow's flour and oil multiplied, a dead son raised to life. What could God do through you if you trust His hidden seasons? Comment below. Your faith could light up someone's path. This story isn't just about Elijah, it's about us. Cherith is every moment we feel alone, unseen, or forgotten. It's the job loss, the silent struggle, the waiting season. But God's there, cutting away what holds us back, teaching us to lean on Him. The drying brook isn't abandonment. It's God saying, "Move forward, I have more for you." Like Elijah, we're being prepared for a purpose bigger than we can see. A call to trust God's plan. The mystery of Cherith is a call to trust. Trust when God hides you. Trust when He provides through unlikely means. Trust when the brook runs dry. Elijah's story shows us a God who's faithful in scarcity, powerful in silence, and purposeful in every season. For every believer, especially those who felt the weight of history's struggles, Cherith is a promise. God sees you, sustains you, and is shaping you for greatness. This isn't just a tale from ancient Israel. It's a truth for today. What's your Cherith? Where's God calling you to trust Him? Subscribe to keep exploring these stories. Share this video with someone who needs hope. And comment 777 to join the journey. The ravens are still flying. God's still providing. And your story's not over. Let's keep seeking His purpose together. Thank you for diving into the mystery of Cherith with me. May your heart be stirred, your faith strengthened, and your trust deepened. Until next time, keep listening for God's voice, even in the quiet places.